Prop 8 is a law that was passed in California on a referendum, a ballot initiative, and it banned gay marriage. Now, it was later overturned by the courts because the courts in California and otherwise said that it does not treat all the citizens equally. That is true, and that is, of course, how we got to the civil rights in this country in a large way before we got to the Civil Rights Act itself. So that makes a lot of sense. Of course, conservatives are livid over that, and now the Supreme Court will decide it. Now, the Supreme Court has 5 conservative justices, 4 liberal justices, so this should be fairly easy. But wait a minute, because one of the justices just might flip on it, and we'll tell you who that is in a second. First, let me show you the liberal and the conservative justices. First of all, Justice Sotomayor, with a very interesting point here in the exchange in the Supreme Court.
Outside of the marriage context, can you think of any other rational reason for a state using sexual orientation as a factor in denying homosexuals benefits?
Your Honor, I cannot. I do not have anything to offer you in that regard.
That's awesome. She said, give me a rational basis. Rational. Anything. Anything. Hit me. Now, look, we're not allowed to discriminate against gays in other regards. You want to discriminate against them here. Give me a rational basis for why we would discriminate them. Suplex. Okay. Now, here comes the Paul driver. It's Scalia. Now, Scalia is obviously against giving gay marriage rights. He thinks, the Constitution, Jefferson didn't like gay marriage. He doesn't know that. But he claims to be a strict constructionist. He's incredibly hypocritical in all this matters, but nonetheless, he's going to try to make an argument here against Ted Olson. Now, Ted Olson, remember, represented Bush and Bush v. Gore. He's now on the side of taking down Prop 8. He's in favor of gay marriage. He's doing it with his old nemesis, David Boies, who represented Gore. They're in it together here, and he's making a very principled argument. Scalia thinks he's going to get in with a zinger. Olson fires back. Watch.
When did it become unconstitutional to exclude homosexual couples from marriage?
I may answer this in the form of a rhetorical question. When did it become unconstitutional to prohibit interracial marriages?
Paul driver. So I love that rhetorical question. You say, wait. You remember that you guys outlawed interracial marriage. You guys meaning conservatives, but also a conservative too, to be fair. Interracial marriage all that time, and then at one point we decided, oh yeah, that was a bad idea. That's not really constitutional at all. So in this case, you're saying gay marriage has been illegal for a long time, but then you just realize, oh yeah, well, that was a bad idea. It turns out it was unconstitutional all along to ban gay marriage. I think it's a great point by Olson. But Scalia and Sotomayor honestly aren't going to matter because they're going to be on the 2 different sides. The question is, will one of the conservative justices flip? Now, Justice John Roberts, who's the Chief Justice, has a lesbian cousin who's actually attending the hearing. She's very hopeful that he'll do the right thing. I think her hopes are misplaced. Some of his questions seem to indicate that he was not going in that direction. Now, here comes Justice Anthony Kennedy off the top rope. Which way is he going to go? Interesting. Let me quote. Now, he starts talking about, hey, wait a minute. We already have gay people that are having their rights restricted today. That's already happening, right? And then they got kids. They've adopted kids. So he says, quote, they want their parents to have full recognition and legal status. The voice of those children is considerable in this case, don't you think? In fact, before I get to the rest of his quotes, listen to Kennedy himself. Watch.
There are some 40,000 children in California, according to the Red Brief, that live with same-sex parents. And they want their parents to have full recognition and full status. The voice of those children is important in this case, don't you think?
Don't you think the voice of the children are important? Now, you think after he says that, he's going to go in and say, yeah, I was just kidding. The voice of the children aren't that important. I'm going to rule against them. So that's a really positive sign. Now, he also said that we're going to, quote, uncharted waters here. But then he said it could be that there's a wonderful destination at the end of that or a cliff. But it appears, based on his questions and his comments, that he thinks it might be a wonderful destination instead. He was very important in Lawrence v. Texas that decriminalized gay sex to begin with back in 2003. So there's, I think, a very good chance that Kennedy will go in the right direction. Now, get a load of this. He is not buying the argument that this would only apply to California. He wants it to be broader. Now, of course, Obama being who he is, his administration put in a brief saying, well, let's do some sort of compromise where we would allow for gay marriage in only 8 out of the 50 states. How classic Obama is that? I'm kind of in favor of gay marriage, but let me give you 42 of the states and I'll only take 8. But it seems Kennedy is not predisposed in that direction. And it would be, I mean, they could really limit this to California. They could limit it to legal grounds. But there's some chance that Kennedy says, oh no, I'm not going in that direction. Apply to the whole country, gay marriage legal. Off the top of, oh, end of this.